forging his own knives and swords and making chainmail, spinning wool, camping, etc. If I were to write a book, I would full on nerd out like that. That's my problem. As long as it's not a murder mystery.
Welcome to Books and Banter, a podcast about books. I'm Janine, a library clerk.
And I'm Jess, branch admin.
And we both work at the Winkler branch of South Central Regional Library. In this podcast, we talk about books with our own twist. We read the first half of the book and predict where it might be going, and then finish reading the book and discuss the second half.
There will be snark, there will be spoilers, and depending on the book, there may be references to violence, sex, and other adult topics. So if that's not for you, stop listening now.
All right, let's get into this week's book. Alrighty, today we are diving into the science fiction novel Fractal Noise by Christopher Paolini. Am I saying that right?
Something along those lines.
Okay, we'll say Paolini. If that's wrong, I apologize. July 25th, 2234. The crew of the Adamira discovers the anomaly. On the seemingly uninhabited planet Talos 7, a circular pit, 50 kilometers wide. Its curve not of nature, but design. Now, a small team must land and journey on foot across the surface to learn who built the hole and why. But they all carry the burdens of lives carved out on disparate colonies in the cruel cold of space. For some, the mission is the dream of the lifetime. For others, a risk not worth taking. And for one, it is a desperate attempt to find meaning in an uncaring universe. Each step they take toward the mysterious abyss is more punishing than the last, and the ghosts of their past follow. Paolini's website says this is a standalone novel in the Fractal verse. However, it also says it's a prequel to the book To Sleep in a Sea of Stars, which is book 1 in the Fractal verse universe. And we don't have it, but on Goodreads they have it as volume 0.5.
Okay.
So, take from that what you will, but that's where this book fits in. So, the author info, there is a lot, and it's really interesting. So, please bear with me as we get into it. So I'm first going to read what he says in the book, and then some of it will be a little bit repeated in the other stuff I found online, but I read this afterwards and I just thought it was really interesting the way it was written in the book. So Christopher Paolini, firstborn of Kenneth and Talita, creator of the world of Aragon and the Fractalverse, holder of the Guinness World Record for youngest author of a best-selling series, qualified for marksman in the Australian Army, Scottish laird, dodged gunfire more than once. As a child was chased by a moose in Alaska, has his name inscribed on Mars, husband, father, asker of questions, and teller of stories. Which I just thought, a little more interesting than most authors' bios in their books.
Most authors haven't been chased by a moose.
Yeah. This, what I'm going to say next, will kind of expand on that a little bit. But Christopher was homeschooled by his parents. As a child, he often wrote short stories and poems, made frequent trips to the library, and read widely. Some of his favorite books were Bruce Coville's Jeremy Thatcher, Dragon Hatcher, Frank Herbert's Dune, and Raymond E. Feist's Magician. The idea of Aragon began as the daydreams of a teen. Christopher's love for the magic of stories led him to craft a novel that he would enjoy reading. The project began as a hobby, a personal challenge. He never intended it to be published. Before he began writing Aragon, he plotted out the entire adventure. He found that doing some of the same things as his characters allowed him to better understand their world, as well as to think of descriptions that otherwise would not have occurred to him. To this end, he forged his own knives and swords, made chainmail, spun wool, camped in the Beartooth Mountains, made his own bow, built survival shelters, learned to track game, fletched arrows, felled trees, hiked, and camped. In short, the books embody a great deal of his experience of living in Montana. Christopher was 15 when he wrote the first draft of Aragon. He took a second year to revise the book and then gave it to his parents to read. The family decided to self-publish the book and spent a third year preparing the manuscript for publication, copy editing, proofreading, designing a cover, typesetting the manuscript, and creating marketing materials. During this time, Christopher drew the map for Aragon as well as the dragon eye for the book cover. The manuscript was sent to press, and the first books arrived in November 2001. The Paolini family spent the next year promoting the book at libraries, bookstores, and schools in 2002 and early 2003. And then this last part, the Guinness World Records, the youngest author of a best-selling book series. And then what I didn't include was another author who had a son who read the book Aragon and loved it, gave it to his dad. And that's how he got like an actual official publisher for the book.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was Carl Hassan. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. But anyway.
I know who you're talking about, but I'm not taking a stab at the last name.
Yeah. But anyway, so his son had read Aragon and gave it to his dad. And then his dad had contacted Christopher Paolini and got himself a publisher.
Nice.
And yeah. So I just thought that was really interesting that his first book was self-published and that he wrote it when he was 15.
Well, I knew he was quite young when he wrote it. I knew that it was self-published. But I didn't realize that he actually did that amount of hands-on research, for lack of a better term.
And that's,
because that is impressive.
That's still a popular book. Like, people still read it a lot.
No, it is still going out. Like, we've had to replace our copy multiple times because it's just A, it's a big book, and B, it gets read a lot.
I know.
But
I feel like I need to read it now.
It's on my list of audiobooks to get through.
Yeah.
But I have hundreds of hours of audiobooks to get through, so it's a process.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I don't know. I thought his background was kind of interesting and how the book came to be, and yeah.
See, that's the thing. Like, the forging his own knives and swords and making chainmail, spinning wool, camping, etc. If I were to write a book, I would full on nerd out like that. That's my problem.
Well, it's
fine as long as it's not a murder mystery. I just need to practice.
Part of me feels like, though, you have to do that.
I think
a little bit to a certain extent, maybe not like as full on like this, but you have to do your research and your due diligence in order to make the book believable. I think
it would depend on the book, but yes, like a action adventure book, a fantasy book where there's a lot more of the, like, you can't battle a dragon obviously, but you can, a lot of those have, camping in the woods and making your own materials, that kind of thing. I think it definitely adds to it and gives it an authenticity that you cannot fake.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking of, I'm reading Book Lovers by Emily Henry right now, and so the main character is like a publisher, editor, or something like that, and one of her authors wrote a book set in a small little town, somewhere rural, in the States, I can't remember which state, but anyway, and so this main character's sister is obsessed with this book, and decides that they need to go on a vacation to this small town where this book was set, because it's a real place. And then they get there, and it's not at all like it appeared in the book.
Well,
because the author had never even been there.
See, that's the thing where I'm like, just make up your own town then.
Yeah, exactly. Make it a fictional place.
If you're going to base it on a real place,
you have to be accurate.
Do your research. Like, Robert Ludlum, who wrote Born series. Yeah. The books of the series he actually wrote were quite accurate in that regard. Like, if he said there was a sniper in the window overlooking the square, there was a window and there was a square, and preferably no sniper. But very accurate in terms of location and that kind of thing. So I kind of feel like, and like that was back in, pre-Google Earth days. Yeah. Now, I kind of feel like there's no excuse if you're planning on basing it in a real place. And, like, not someplace like Paris or London where, like, an alley's an alley. But in a little town that you can find, try and make it somewhat accurate. And if you don't want to make it accurate, fine, make up your own town. Like, there's nothing wrong with doing that, because if the existing town doesn't fit the vision, make up another one. It's fine. Like, and then you can just say, based on this town as opposed to this town.
Yep, exactly.
So.
Yeah, and I know my example was fiction, but it's, I think, a good example of why you don't just not do your due diligence or your research, right?
That and jobs.
Yeah.
There are a few things that aggravate me more than when I'm reading a book and they're like, oh, yes, we love librarians. One of our main characters is a librarian, and they spend their day reading.
Yeah.
I'm like, you are not a librarian. I have yet to actually work in a library, and I've worked in libraries big, I've worked in libraries small, where I have time to sit and read. You're not doing library right.
Now, that being said, I did take like 20 minutes to read today.
Yeah, but not the like oh yes, I sit and read my entire shift and, take out one cart of books to shelf. Do your research into the job. Don't just assume.
Yep.
Like, that just
Yep.
Grinds my gears every time.
Anyway, let's talk about the cover, because we started
We're 10
talking
minutes in and we haven't actually talked about the
Well,
actual
we
book.
started talking about the cover before we started recording, and we were like, we better record this, because the concept of the book is the hole, a circular pit, whatever you want to call it. On the cover of the book, it looks like the hole is something that you can walk right into.
Yeah, more of a cave type hole as opposed to a pit type hole.
Yeah, when we were reading it, I think we both agreed that we thought it was like in the ground, you go down into the hole.
Yeah, more of a pit type hole where
Yeah.
it's kind of sheer sides, because I think at one point it said there's sheer sides, the sides are smooth.
Yes.
So it was clearly not like a sinkhole, which would be kind of jaggedy and rough.
In the summary, it does say a circular pit.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just confused by this cover, because, well, what is that they're walking into then? Or like you were talking
it looks
about,
very cavey compared to very holy.
you were talking about angles too, right? Like maybe it's a.
Well, I was wondering if there was like banks,
Mhm.
kind of, because there is the wind and the sound waves and whatever.
Yeah.
If it created banks and more of a like a blast crater type of thing, not a crater, but like that there
Yeah.
were banks on the side of it, and he's going down into it, and the perspective which they took the picture, it makes it look more took the picture.
Yeah.
Have the picture. Makes it look more like it's a cave rather than a hole.
Right.
So I'm wondering if it's like angles coming down a bank rather than that.
Yeah.
But we haven't actually reached the hole, so we don't know.
Yeah, we've not. We're nowhere near the hole, I feel like.
No.
It's a long journey to the hole.
Yes. Very tiring journey.
I just, okay, I have to admit, I started this book, they saw this hole, everybody's like, this could be like
It's the hole!
history making hole, and I'm like, maybe the hole is just a hole.
No.
But that's like, I don't know.
How deep did they say the hole was again?
50 kilometers wide, and it doesn't say the bottom
It
is
was like 20 kilometers deep or something.
770 degrees Celsius at the bottom.
Yeah. Not for a single second did I think that this wasn't a quite a fantastic hole. But Earth currently, the deepest we've ever gone is 7 kilometers. And that was a teeny tiny borehole. The fact that there's a hole this big and this deep and this smooth is most definitely a very special hole.
Admittedly, do not read a lot of science fiction, so a lot of this terminology is kind of foreign to me also.
That being said, I don't think it's like to the point of off-putting.
No, it's not. It's actually very like readable, and I'm not like, I don't hate this book. When you first suggested it, I was like, okay, I guess we can try it. I don't hate it. Like, it's not that it's uninteresting, but to me, it's a hole. They're obsessed with a hole. I don't like.
There's a hole. There's a hole. There's a hole in the bottom of the sea.
I don't. Although at one point they talked about like the hole as a jacuzzi, and I thought, well, that's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I'm having trouble understanding the why. Like, the mission seems kind of futile. Like, are they even going to get to the hole? It's so windy, and they're struggling already. They're nowhere near it, and like.
Sorry, you don't understand why they're doing the mission?
Well, no, I mean, no, it's not that. It just seems like it's not a good idea.
I think it's a fabulous idea.
But like, their sledges are all breaking down. They're all getting injured.
Expected.
The author has written the word thud more times than I can count.
That is the one thing where this book was starting to actually give me a headache.
Because it kept saying thud.
Because it kept saying thud.
Yeah.
And my brain fixated on the thud.
Yes.
And how annoying that would be. And I have migraines. Like, I have bad migraines. So just the constant, like, even the written word thud, it was just like my brain kept going, thud. And I'm like, oh, this is so bad.
And the other thing is, they talk about the thud as a consistent, like, it happens every so many seconds, right?
Like 10 or 7 seconds.
But it's not written in the book that way.
No.
Like, there's huge gaps between thuds, and then all of a sudden you'll get a few thuds, like, really close together. And I'm like...
Which is also really annoying, because I
Yes.
swear I'm part beaver, because if there's a tap dripping or something where it's inconsistent, I could have broken legs and I will get up and I will turn that dang thing off, because I just can't tolerate it.
Yeah.
It irks me. Also, beavers, if you play the sound of running water, they'll try and build a dam, even if there's no water.
No, I need to find a beaver.
Yes, I know. So, fun fact.
I enjoy that.
So that's the beaver thing makes a bit more sense. But
Yeah.
like that constant thud and the
Mm-hmm.
even when you're reading and it's not written as thud, you can still kind of like there's still the thud in the back of your brain.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
It was starting to actually give me a little bit of headache because my brain kept going. There's a thud. There's a thud. There's a thud.
Mm-hmm. I know, it was kind of driving me a little bonkers.
So if you don't like thuds, don't read the book.
Yeah. And I think for me, with science fiction books especially, I just feel like I need to see it. I can't always envision like what they're talking about. You know what I mean? Like I have a hard time. Like they keep talking about overlays. What the heck are overlays? Like, is it glasses that have a screen on them? That like, because that's where all their information comes from.
Yeah, I think more of a heads-up display.
So like,
yeah, information on your screen that's on the helmet thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just like, I don't like, you know, but I just feel like if I could, sometimes some of these things I have a hard time visualizing.
There are two genres that I think benefit when being turned into films more than anything else, and that is sci-fi and fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
If they're done correctly.
Right.
If you all of a sudden make your dragons the wrong color and make them 4-footed instead of 2-footed, or with wings or no wings, or just messing up the basics that were in the book for a reason, I'm not your fan. But it does make it easier to visualize and that kind of thing, and I've ingested enough sci-fi in my life that it's, I don't know what they're talking about, even if they call it a different name.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna just like sit down and watch a sci-fi movie.
Why not?
It's just not my preferred genre.
Oh, they're fantastic.
I
like a good sci-fi movie, but I really love a bad sci-fi movie.
Okay.
Like one that's like so awful, you're just sitting there going, you got money for this? Seriously? Did it have the Monopoly Man on it? Because that's about all it's worth.
I may watch The Martian.
You haven't watched The Martian? I mean, it's a little bit cheesy because it's Matt Damon. But
What do you have against Matt Damon?
you'll get it when you watch it.
Okay.
It's quite cheesy. I mean, space pirates, like, come on. Not good space pirates, just technically he's a space. He's very annoying.
Okay.
But,
like I'm trying to read the book
Mm-hmm.
or listen to the audiobook because Will Wheaton narrates it.
Yeah.
And I like Will Wheaton from Big Bang Theory. I think he's kind of funny. But anyway, I have been listening to the audiobook since like Christmas probably, and I keep like stopping it and listening to something else, and then I'll go back and listen to a little bit more. Like I'm having a hard time getting through it because I feel like it's moving very slowly.
It is one of those where I kind of feel like it may, like, I don't want to say it's been better as a movie. It depends very much if you want it sci-fi for the entertainment or if you're a proper nerd.
Yeah, I'm not a proper sci-fi nerd.
Proper sci-fi nerd, book is better. If you just kind of want light sci-fi entertainment, movie's better.
Okay.
So
I just, I think Kathy actually recommended it. She's like, oh, this is so great. And Will Wheaton narrates it. And I was like, oh, Will Wheaton, okay. Because sometimes I have a hard time with audiobooks because I don't like the narrators' voices.
yeah, I have a bigger problem with sci-fi in audiobooks than I do in just reading it.
Okay.
Something about the technical details, I find that reading it is better if it's going to be full nerd sci-fi.
Yeah, see, this
If it's
one-
more like Aurora Rising, yeah, that audiobook's fine because it's not full nerd.
And this one's not so bad. I feel like it's very accessible to the non-sci-fi lover. Like this one, but The Martian also, I feel like is very, like I can follow along pretty okay.
They're fiction first, science second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Andy Weir is trying to write sci-fi for the people.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And he did a good job. Like, it was a very popular book.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah. But I keep thinking about that as I'm reading this book. I don't know why, because they're not at all alike. But
okay, this one to me, I kept getting Contact. But mix that with Amish vampires in space.
yes, I was getting vampires in space vibes from this book also.
Like, it was kind of like mash those two together, but like improve them by 100-fold.
Yeah.
And you got this book. I think it's the Hutterites that threw me off.
Yes. What is with the Hutterites?
I don't know. Like, when you're like, oh, the Hutterite expansion, I'm like, wait. Do you mean like actual Hutterites, or do you mean like have you repurposed a name?
Right. But Hutterites came up more than once.
Yeah, but they're talking about like actual Hutterite.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah.
So I want way more information on that.
Yeah.
Like, I want all the information. Because what?
Yeah. I know. That too.
I'm
And
confused.
I was like, what? Why are we talking about Hutterites?
Well, it's one of those things where I'm like, okay, were they some of the first colonists? Because I sort of get that, because A, you're used to living in a colony, which a lot of other people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a different dynamic and structure of society. Agriculture tends to be fairly dominant. Not every single Hutterite colony farms, but it is very, very common.
Mm-hmm.
But yet they do still use technology, so it's like Amish but upgraded in terms of being able to farm but still deal with technology without going, ah! So... So I kind of get it if you're going to pick a group of people and dump them on a planet and go, see what happens.
Are there a lot of Hutterites in the States, though?
There's a fair amount of Hutterites.
Okay.
There's Hutterite colonies in Japan, or there was a Hutterite colony in Japan.
I don't associate Hutterites with the States very much, but the reason I ask that is because this book also uses kilometers and Celsius,
Yes.
which is not common in the States. That's not how they measure things.
No, but the states aren't even in the book.
No, but the author is American.
Yes, but NASA operates off of metric, not imperial.
Oh, okay.
As does pretty much every other country. It's the standard for any kind of space mission.
Okay.
So,
See, and I just assumed NASA being in the States would use
nope.
their form of measurements and...
Nope. They use metric.
Okay.
Because otherwise you have way too many issues. It's better have everybody on standard, and more of the world uses metric than imperial because metric makes sense.
Yes. Yes, it does. Okay. I just thought, well, that's really interesting. These are numbers I can understand because I know these measurements. But also I did not enjoy that he kept writing clicks instead of kilometers.
Yes.
Stop doing that.
That, I'm like, are you a trucker from the 80s?
Yeah.
Like,
only farmers say that.
and truckers.
Farmers and
but
truckers.
most of the truckers that I know are also farmers.
Exactly.
So it's kind of
exactly right.
could be either or there.
So, yeah, I was like, we can stop. We can stop with the thuds. We can stop with the clicks. It's a lot of...
Can we switch the thuds to clicks instead?
No. Just leave it out altogether. Like, we know that
I
there's...
do feel like there is a point in having it in the book. Because that kind of continuous... Like, that's the kind of thing they use for torture in Guantanamo.
Yes, but...
So...
I'm not in Guantanamo, and I don't need torturing.
No, but they do. Because that repetitious thud will wear away at your subconscious to the point where it will cause a fracture in the group. And it will exhaust you in a different way. So there is a point to having it in the story and that constant reminder, because then when one of the crew inevitably goes, ah! and freaks out.
Just stop doing that.
Sorry, I keep scaring Janine. When one of them inevitably freaks out, you understand it.
Yeah.
Because this constant reminder, the thud, thud, thud.
I know.
Like,
I know. But as a reader, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, like I say, I'm not hating it.
I'm quite enjoying it.
It would not necessarily be my first choice of a book to pick up. I wouldn't have just picked it up on my own.
No, I picked it up and I made her do it.
Yeah.
If there's any sci-fi books, just assume that was the case.
I was going to say about 80% of the podcast books are ones that Jess was like, you need to read this. That's not true.
I think I've talked you into the blimp one now, right?
I'm not sure.
There may be an episode where I just read the blimp book and I just talk about it myself.
Sure.
Isn't that a fascinating book, Jess? Well, yes, it is. Thank you. And that's also when I go for mental health leave.
Maybe there's somebody else who wants to read the blimp book and they could join you.
I don't know. Nobody else has expressed any interest in Zeppelins.
Well, I feel like it's a very niche audience.
There's more of us out there than you think.
There may be, but there's still a niche audience, I think, for Zeppelins.
But they're so fascinating.
Well, that may be. Do I need to read a whole book about them?
Yes.
I might fall asleep many times.
Agree to disagree. Anywho, we cannot use a Zeppelin in Fractal noise because there's too much wind.
Then I will say it was 18 pages, front and back. Sorry.
The constant wind in this book. This book, I think, is just designed to give me a headache.
I hate wind.
Because the constant wind.
And it's not like a nice calming breeze.
No, they said it was something like 150k. Like, that is some serious wind. And, like, that just sandblasts everything. So,
yeah.
It's... I'm curious what happens as I get closer to the hole. Because at this point, they've only hit the edge of gamma ray? Or the gamma zone?
Yeah, end of gamma zone.
Yeah. So, and like they're barely seeing the turtles, and it's very much like, you're over there, we're over here. Mm-hmm. Let's leave it like this.
Silently checking each other out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the turtles are a mystery.
Well, they're not turtles, but we're just calling them turtles because that's what they call them.
That's what they call them in the book.
Because they kind of zip around like slow turtles. And zipping and slow is...
Yeah.
contrasting words.
It's an oxymoron.
Yes, it is. My brain got stuck on a cow joke when I'm trying to move past it here.
You may need to share the cow joke with the class.
I don't think I do. I'm curious about them because they're definitely sentient.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, they do have sentient technology. Yeah, we'll go with sentient. And they are definitely observing them. Mm-hmm. They definitely go faster than what they thought they did.
Yeah.
So they go something like 70 or 90K.
I don't remember.
Something like that. Pretty speedy anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I'm curious. I'm very, very curious about them. Because on the one hand, my brain is stuck on Daleks. Which, the way they move and everything, to me, is very Dalek-y. But on the other hand, I'm stuck on armadillos. Because to me, they kind of seem like armadillos. I don't know, looks-wise.
I'm thinking, in my head, they're like... kind of like, have you seen Raya and the Last Dragon?
Yes. Yeah, like the rolling guys.
Yeah, but more blobby.
Armadillos. See, like that thing, but like...
But not with...
gliding a bit more.
Not with a shell. In my mind, they're like...
squishy?
Jelly-like.
No, I see them as armored.
Okay. It could be.
I just think jelly with the wind and the sand and everything.
It would be sticky.
Yes.
Yeah,
but
no,
like they would need some kind of protection.
You're probably right.
From the sandblasting.
Probably have the blobbiness in my head because of that blobby turtle you made me look at the other day.
The blobfish.
No, it wasn't the fish. It was the turtle.
Oh, the shellless turtle.
The shellless turtle. That looks kind of blobby. Only I'm picturing it more like humped. Well, not humped, but like...
a rounder shell. More of a tortoise. Like if you took a tortoise and blobified it.
Kind of.
Yeah, because tortoises
but taller.
Have shells.
Actually taller.
Taller than a tortoise yet?
Yeah.
A tortoise has a very round shell.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like
We're verging on pointy here.
Not pointy, still rounded, but like this big off the ground. You guys can't see, but it's higher than my head when I'm sitting.
About 4.5 feet.
Sure. That's how big I'm envisioning that they are.
I'm thinking more like full on, like a double-decker bus, but then just like armadillo.
Oh, so like even bigger.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing them as.
Okay. See, that's the thing. Like,
we're getting very different turtles out of this.
Yes, we are. I think that's okay, but like, with the shell part, you're probably right. I don't know why I had blobby in my head.
Well, I don't know. To me, they're just kind of more of a armored car in some ways, in terms of how they zip around.
But they don't have wheels.
No, they don't have wheels. They kind of...
Do they have tracks?
Do they have tracks?
I don't know if it really says.
Because they were trying to figure out how they move.
Yeah.
But move very smoothly anyway, great suspension. So, kind of very hovery in their motions. But I think they're definitely thinking creatures, whether they be biological or mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're patrol, maintenance, defense, scientists.
Maybe all of the above.
Residents.
I was hoping for some human-type creatures.
I'm hoping they're not. I'm so tired of aliens that are like, oh yes, it's a human minus a belly button. You're Hutch, yay! And that's the only differences.
Well, that's not what I was thinking.
How humanoid are you thinking?
Like, full on.
You just want a human?
I want a human.
Oh. So you think there's like a Hutterite colony that went rogue?
Maybe.
And started digging down?
Maybe there is a Hutterite colony. Maybe they live at the bottom of the hole.
I think we dig too far.
We can't get out.
No, I don't think it's Hutterites at the bottom of the hole.
Well, do you think there's something at the bottom of the hole? Like, what? Tell me what you think the hole is. They are saying that this hole is one of the most important discoveries in history. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, it's a hole. So tell me...
It's not the fact that it's a hole. It's the fact that there's very clearly intelligent design.
Okay.
Which is the big deal. Because so far they have not yet found intelligent species.
Well, they don't know about those turtles.
Well, yes, that's why they're there.
Do you think the turtles talk?
I think the turtles communicate amongst themselves, definitely. Whether or not they are capable of communicating with humans is an entirely different question, because they may be capable of communicating, but are we capable of understanding them?
Mm-hmm.
Which is always the thing. Like, would we even recognize that they're trying to communicate?
Right.
So, it's... I think they can definitely communicate. Whether or not
We can understand them.
it's something that will translate
Mm-hmm.
as communication is an entirely different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the thing, too, he mentioned at one point, that would we even recognize life on another planet if we found it?
Right.
Because we're accustomed to looking for carbon-based life forms as opposed to any other based life forms.
Mm-hmm.
So we might not recognize that the life form is a life form. Like, we could be walking right over it and not realize that it is alive, it is sentient.
Mm-hmm.
So there's like a billion different questions.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, no answers.
No, very few answers, yes.
So, but
Yeah.
what the whole is, I don't know, because the sound coming out of it has to be made by something.
Mm-hmm.
A part of me wonders if it's a heartbeat.
Do you think the hole is a living thing?
Is there a living thing at the bottom of it? Is the planet itself a living thing?
Huh.
Like, we literally don't know. Like, it could literally be anything.
Yeah.
I love sci-fi.
It's too many unanswered questions.
But like that speaker, that frequency, like, to make that noise so consistently,
Yeah.
it is similar to a heartbeat in a lot of ways.
Yeah, that's true.
So, is there a creature? Is the planet a creature? Are the turtles its version of lice? Like,
Ew.
I doubt that the entire planet is a creature, because that would be unprecedented and, like, rework life as we understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's a possibility there's a creature in the hole.
Okay. I just don't know what to make of it.
Yeah. Since we've nerded out about the science bit, the people bit.
Oh. Every single one of the people in this book is kind of annoying.
The captain is, I think, about the least annoying.
Yes.
Because so far I'm like, okay, you're making fairly solid decisions.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't, so often the captains are like, I'm the hero or I'm the villain. And there's very few times where you actually have like a nice in-between.
Mm-hmm.
So far he's a nice in-between.
The captain, I will give you the captain, but he's hardly in the book, so.
Yeah. Pushkin can push off.
Yes.
That guy
He can
is so... I would like to push him in the hole.
He can be the first one to go down and see what's there.
Check and see if there's a jacuzzi down there, would you? No, like, he's a bully.
Mm-hmm.
Pure and simple. And,
Yeah.
oh, I want to go on the mission, but wants to turn around every single chance that there is.
I know. Like, you're not committed.
Don't want to go, don't go.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a point where I'm like, I kind of think he's going to sabotage it at some point.
Yeah.
Because he's the least sciencey scientist I've ever seen in my life.
He's actually, well, I guess he is a geologist. I was going to say he's not really a scientist, but he is a geologist.
Well, they are kind of the... Geologists are often terrible.
Yes.
So.
I know that from watching The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just like, nah, it's just a geologist.
Yeah.
It's like engineers. You're just an engineer.
Which I also know from watching The Big Bang Theory.
Like, he's so unlikable.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just
Very much.
an awful person.
Yeah.
And what's her name?
Talia.
Talia.
So I wrote them all down so I would remember.
Good.
Because there's a lot of names.
There is. Talia needs to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, I think she was, of the four, the better option to lead the mission.
Mm-hmm.
I like the fact the main character isn't leading the mission.
Yep.
But, oh my word, she sees everything from a theological point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not understand how you can do that as a scientist.
Yeah.
She's an astrophysicist?
Yep.
How can you, like, to the point of, like, don't get me wrong, science and religion can cohabitate. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's happened. You can still
You can,
see both sides of it.
but that doesn't happen very often, I feel like.
Yes, I think it depends a lot what science you are.
Mm-hmm.
But she is so hardline on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, refuses to consider anything else. Like, to the point where all other... Like, Jesus is the creator of the universe, but all other creatures are damned because they don't follow Jesus, the creator of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a narrow-minded Earth-centric view that, as an astrophysicist, I don't understand how you're capable of that. Like, it boggles the mind that you can't think beyond that.
But it also keeps referring to something that happened in her past.
Yeah.
That I feel like maybe affected her worldview.
Well, there was she was on,
I didn't write that one down because I don't know why.
Whatever the planet colony was that was under siege and like 95% of the people died and whatnot. Like, I get it, there's trauma, but at the same time, can you not recognize the fact different planet would have a different belief system? And that it would actually be really, really, really weird if their belief system was Judeo-Christian. Like, I believe that this human, who they might not even be, they might be turtles.
Yeah.
Went to the cross, a thing I don't understand, in a country that is not even on my planet, to die for my sins, when I may not even have a concept of that, and certainly have never heard of the Ten Commandments. Like, how do you apply that to a completely different planet? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
And to be so hardline on it
yeah.
It just, I don't get it. I don't get it.
As a religious person myself, her take on it, her adamance, I don't know what exactly, it was very off-putting. I could see how to a non-religious person that would be just very off-putting. That doesn't make religion sound like something I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
You know?
More of a hindrance than a help in terms of recruitment. Like, it's that the general attitude of her is just, I'm right. I'm right because I say I'm right.
Yeah.
And if you disagree with me, you're going to hell.
Yeah.
How can you work with that kind of person? Like, you can't reason with them because they're so, like, in their view, they're right. Their worldview is correct. And it does not matter what you say because their worldview is correct.
Yeah.
As a scientist, questioning things is part of your job.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't understand. Like, don't get me wrong. I think as a character, she's good to have in there because it is one of those questions that comes up, and it is one of the topics that often happens in sci-fi. But that does not make her any less annoying as a character, which I would argue means she's very well written.
Yeah. Also, I do think she is a good leader for the mission.
Yes, with the exception of the religion thing.
Right. But, like, take that out of it, and I think she's a good leader.
Yeah, because the other two are Chen,
yeah.
is... I don't have any other word for him other than weak.
Well, he's just kind of there. I don't feel like they really developed his character a ton.
He will go along with
Yeah.
whoever has the biggest threat against him and won't stand up. Like, currently he has a broken leg, so he can't stand up. But I was a little bit surprised, actually, when he's like, yeah, no, I want to continue going on. On the other hand, safety numbers, so is that the brave decision or still the not so brave decision? So, meh.
Yeah.
Didn't want to get trampled by a turtle. So,
Well, yeah.
it could kind of go either way there. It does bug me a little bit that they keep calling them turtles when they're so clearly tortoises because there's no water.
Now, let's not get hung up on the details.
That's what I do best, is get hung up on the details.
I know.
Yeah. And who's the other one?
Alex?
Yes, Alex, the main character. I'm sorry, dude, but you're very annoying.
He's so flat.
He's so flat. He's grieving his wife, and I get that.
Yeah.
But there's a point where I'm like, dude, snap out of it.
But it's like he's grieving her, but he's not fully, like...
He's like, shut down. That's what he's
just
done.
there. Like, he's not really engaged.
He's reset to factory settings.
Yeah.
And I understand grief is complicated and it will express in a myriad of ways and yada, yada, yada. But he's borderline non-functioning. And that's my issue with him, because if I was leading the team, I'm not taking the borderline non-functioning dude.
Right.
You stay in the spaceship and you keep crying at pictures of your wife.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do to get through your grief. I don't care. That's your decision, whatever.
Yeah.
But then do not go on the mission, because that lack of focus will compromise everyone else. I don't totally understand why he's there.
Yeah. Well, because he's the main character. He has to be there.
Yeah, I know. It's rare there's a main character that doesn't go with the mission and is like, no, I shall observe from the spaceship.
Yeah, right? But, yeah, his character is very flat and...
So far, I had no sympathy for him.
Clearly depressed.
Yes. Needs mental help.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan.
I'm interested to see where his character goes in the second half, because he was perking up a little bit and showing a little bit more interest and like, no, I actually want to go. Like, it was his idea on, like, removing the self-driving parts of the sledges so that they could pull them and keep going on, because he did actually want to keep going on. So I am curious how the second half is going to go in terms of him, just perking up a bit more.
Yeah.
I think somebody's going to die.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
I suspect it'll be Pushkin.
I hope so. That's terrible. I don't wish anybody to die, but this man, is he annoying.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's going to try and punch a turtle or something. And
He's just a bully.
He's just a bully. An unimaginative bully. Like, don't get me wrong. I don't condone bullying. But the ones where it's like, well, you do actually have a good sense of wit about you. Those I'm like, okay, they're more interesting to read as a character. You like a good villain. He's just a bully. He's not a villain.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, he falls flat.
Yep.
If only he'd actually fall flat. Like,
oh dear.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I am interested in this book as like part of a series.
Yeah.
Because just the little bit that I've read thus far, the first half, I'm already kind of going, I definitely need to read more of the series, because he's building a universe in a way where I'm like, he's adding enough that he's building a universe, but he's not giving you so much that it's like, well, I know everything, I'm good to go now. So I'm quite curious to see what he does with the rest of it.
Yeah.
Because I like a good universe.
I know you do. So we'll have to read To Sleep in a Sea of Stars next and see.
Yes, definitely.
I don't know that I'll be reading it, but we'll see.
I'll tell you all about it.
Good.
Whether you want to listen or not.
You can write a book report for me.
Oh dear, I don't want to do that. But now's a good time to cross-promote the blog.
Yes.
We have a blog. You're the editor of the blog.
South Central Regional Library. All libraries submit book reviews for the blog. We post a new one every week. And yeah, you should check it out. It's called Novel Experiences. There is a link on our website. And you can see promotions on our social media every week.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Books the staff read, books the patrons read.
Yep.
Whether they like it, whether they hate it.
If you would like to write a review for the blog, just bring it into your local branch.
There we go. Excellent cross-promotion.
Thank you. Somehow I have to promote the podcast on the blog.
Yeah. Any thoughts or predictions for the next half?
Nothing more than what I've already said. I really need to know the significance of the whole, because in my mind it's still just a whole. Yeah,
I'm definitely curious about what made it.
What's inside of it.
I'm more curious about the noise than anything else. The noise in the wind, because the wind is also quite fascinating. And the frequency of the whole is resonating. I'm like, I have questions. I need to read the second half.
Yep.
There we go.
And we will. We are back with part 2 of Fractal Noise by Christopher Paolini. So, before we get into our thoughts on part 2, in the process of finishing this book and whatever, I discovered that there's actually some controversy with the book. Namely, that the cover is AI generated, and a lot of people are very upset about that.
Explains why we couldn't figure out what was going on with it before. We should have counted fingers.
So, yeah. I don't think you can see any fingers, though. But one of the comments that I read, so I discovered this when I was updating my Goodreads. And sometimes after I update my Goodreads, then I go and read the reviews just to see what people said. And so one of the comments was like, an AI-generated cover on a sci-fi book, you would think that like those types of people wouldn't care, right? Like,
considering there's AI in the book. Yeah.
Right up their alley. But yeah, there is some big controversies about that, and a lot of angry people. Apparently the author signed off on it and knew and was fine. So I don't really have an opinion. I guess it takes money away from artists, I think, is the biggest
See, that's my thing.
Yeah.
Like, on the one hand, AI generated stuff can be interesting, and it could be a good starting point for a lot of projects, but I think you need to make a good faith attempt to actually hire a proper artist, because, like we were saying in the first half, this cover does not make sense to me. Mm-mm. It still doesn't make sense to me.
Even after having finished the book, I'm looking at this cover. It's not how I pictured things at all.
No, and not how it's described in the book. So I think in this case, an artist could have done a better job.
Yeah, this was a big miss.
Like, and it's not like it is that difficult of a cover to make.
Mm-mm. It wouldn't have to be.
I'd argue you could make a better cover with a real live human.
And they should have put a turtle on it, though.
They should have had the whole face the right way.
That too. But also it looks fiery to me. Like,
well, I'm getting like more Mars Red Planet vibes. But still, it's very, if you're gonna go with AI generated, it better dang well be better than what an actual artist could do.
Yeah.
Or something where there's no way an actual artist could do it.
Yeah.
And we can do a heck of a lot, so try finding that boundary.
Yep.
But considering the fact that starving artist is literally a thing, why would you not pay somebody?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's enough automation stealing jobs already.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? All of this automated stuff, like, prices are going up and up and up in stores, but like every store you go into now practically has self-checkout lanes, and I'm like, why am I doing your work for you? First of all. Second of all, I'm paying more for these items and I have to do
more work to get them.
Like, no, why aren't you paying me? I'm doing the work, right?
You'd think if you were cutting labor, you're then cutting expenses.
Yep.
So then the price of your product should go down.
Yep.
Instead, it's going the opposite way.
Yeah.
Which is why large companies are raking in tons of money. Like, oh, it's inflation. No, it's price gouging.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it is, plain and simple.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry, that's slightly off topic, but I think it's on my brain because we were at Michael's the other day, and all of their checkouts are now self-checkouts. Oh,
I have issues with Michael's self-checkouts. Let me put a gigantic screen that you now have to type your personal details into. Congratulations. I know the email addresses of everybody in line. And your phone number. And your postal code.
Yep.
I will be using the skip option. Thank you very much.
Yep. Exactly.
That irks me. Why do I now have to give my email address at every single store you would go to?
You don't have to. You can decline.
Oh, I do. Frequently, but stop asking me.
Once I figured that out, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to say no because I get enough junk email.
Well, like, I'm not reading any of them. No. I do not care about your sales. At all.
Delete. I should go and unsubscribe. I've been slowly unsubscribing from things that I don't want to see anymore, but it is like...
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And plus, personal information, go away.
Yeah.
You don't need it. And the 15 people in line behind me don't need it either.
Yeah.
Must be a stalker's dream these days.
One time I was in the store and they asked for my email address and I said, oh, no thanks. And I think I already got emails from them. And they're like, oh, well, if we enter it again, you get better coupons. And I was like, as if.
No.
How can they distinguish between that? I don't know. I thought that was silly.
No, there's no need for it.
Yeah.
All you're doing is sending me more advertisements.
Yep.
And I've got quite enough of those already, thank you very much.
Yep.
So.
Anyways. So, second half.
I was fine. Until the ending. And then I was furious. Because what was the point?
Yeah.
Like, literally, what was the point?
Yep.
You find out nothing.
Nothing.
At all.
Absolutely nothing.
Like, up until the last chapter, I was said, yeah, read this book. It's interesting. Last chapter, forget it. Don't bother. Do not waste your time. It is
I would say the last quarter of the book already. I was tired of all of these characters. Every single one.
Third quarter, I'm like, you cut that out. Just skip right to the last quarter.
Yeah.
Because it dragged on for a bit too long.
It did. And, like, Alex, boring. Pushkin, annoying.
Pushkin is problematic.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure I said at the beginning that the captain seemed like an okay guy. I've changed my mind. What the heck are you doing? Like, Why are you sending these 4 people that you know do not get along
Yeah.
on a mission?
Yep.
Do you want it to fail?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're doing a pretty good job of making sure that it does.
Yep.
Like, at the beginning, I'm like, okay, you know, they have their disagreements, but oftentimes in this kind of, like, story arc, it's like, oh, well, they, you know, get over themselves for the greater good.
Yep.
Or they just shoot everybody. Tends to go one of 2 ways.
Yeah.
This, they're just horrible people.
They just, like, fought the entire way through the second half.
And
basically.
then they got creepy.
Yeah.
Like, who performs an exorcism?
Yeah.
Like,
I know, it was weird. It was all very weird, and there was no resolution at the end of the book, and that drives me batty.
Like, literally, you go to the planet, you go all this way, you're standing at the edge, and it basically comes down to, I kind of want to jump, but I won't. I'll keep trying. Turns around and walks back.
Yeah.
And the book ends, like, 3 steps from the edge.
Exactly.
We find out nothing. Why is there a hole? Who made it? What are the turtles? There's these light flare thingies. Are they anything? Is Chen still alive? What's the point of humanity? Nothing! Nothing! He's just going, like...
I know.
I am so annoyed by this book, because I was enjoying it. And I'm like, cool, we'll find out something. I was expecting there to be some kind of, like...
Yep.
Entry into part 2, essentially. Of, well, you know, there's... something, anything.
Yep.
No, it's just one man's very long, very tiresome, very annoying journey of maybe I won't kill myself.
Yep. I know. I said to you before we started, I read the last sentence and thought to myself literally, what the heck did I just read?
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Why did I waste my time?
It's
like,
not sci-fi, it's a therapy book.
It's something. I don't know, like, and for sci-fi, I actually did enjoy the first half, and I was, like, curious to find out, like, what is the hole? What are the turtles? Like,
yeah.
Because I said in the first half, maybe the hole is just a hole. Well, apparently the hole is just a hole.
Well, it can't be.
No, but
like,
that's all we know.
Given the fact that, like, on the way to the hole, there was, like, oh, the revelations about the gallium and the conductors, and the fact that it's basically a giant, drawing a blank. Anyway, the veins of metal are part of the device, and apparently if you splash in them, a turtle will kill you. But
yes,
or do its best.
Yes.
But like, there were scientific revelations kind of along the way, so I expected there to be something when you got to the end, not just like, nah, I won't kill myself.
Yeah, let me look down the hole. Okay,
and
peace out.
There was a part of me that went, jump, dude. Not to kill yourself, because.
But to see what's down there.
But to see what's down there. Right? Like, I'm like, jump. You might be fine. There's a fair amount of force coming out of that hole. So it might, you know, cushion it a little bit. Like,
maybe.
I should have jumped.
I don't, like...
There was a chance he could have survived.
Do we now need to read To Sleep in a Sea of Stars to...
I'm debating it just because I'm angry at
Okay,
this.
well, you read it and then you tell me, because I don't want to read it really, but...
It irks me. I hate books like this because I
know.
need to know.
I know.
Like...
Drives me batty when there's no resolution.
So, congratulations, Christopher Paolini. I'm going to read your first book.
Yeah.
Because now I have to.
Although technically it does say this is a standalone.
But I'm not happy about it.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I was really ticked because I did find myself enjoying this book, and I was like, this is science fiction. I hate science fiction, but kind of enjoying this book. And then it ended so stupidly.
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. It wasn't a perfect book. Like, even throughout the journey, I'm like, okay, the thuds are literally giving me a headache.
Yeah.
Pushkin is annoying. The other one,
Talia,
creepy. Chen, puppet.
Yeah. Like, Chen, whatever.
No, not whatever. He didn't help matters. He became a puppet for them to just try and control.
Used him.
Alex, annoying because, oh my word, you can think about something other than your dead wife.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's just him harping about his dead wife for an entire book.
Like, you're in his thoughts for a good chunk of the second half.
Like...
And I was like, this guy is boring.
Yeah.
Like, he's just so... ugh.
He's not a good character.
And he's not.
He's one-dimensional. He's very flat.
I would argue that none of the characters were good characters. They were not
Pushkin
interesting.
made me hate him.
Yeah, okay.
As did Talia.
Yeah.
I was annoyed with Chen, but...
I didn't like any of the characters in this book.
Yeah, but I'd argue a character that makes you hate them is a good character because they're written well enough to make you hate them.
It's a well-written character.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a well-written character. Yeah.
But I don't know.
Disappointing.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, just disappointing.
Very much.
And what are the turtles?
Yeah.
Like, you have sentient creatures, robots. It buried something in the dirt. It attacks you if you go splish splash and gallium. It just follows you around. When he got to the edge, there was a ring of 7 of them that I swear were going to go push him. But
that would have been a better ending.
It would have been. Should have. Rewrite it. Have the turtles push him.
Yes.
Then at least you'd go into the next book going, okay, will we find out what happens?
Mm-hmm.
You know, whether the Andarna? Whatever the ship is.
Adamira.
Something along those lines. Can get readings from any tech, whether he survives the fall, like whether there's just a bouncy castle at the bottom. We don't know. But at least it would be a start of something. As opposed to basically like, oh, I won't kill myself and I will promise to try. Who cares? Go get a hang in there kitten poster and go back to work. Jump.
According to this cover, to me it looks like it's filled with liquid hot magma.
Really?
Yeah. It's the redness.
Yeah, but it's outside, not inside.
Well, it's coming out of there.
Why is it ceramic? The edge of the hole.
Yeah, I don't know.
As he got closer, it was ceramic. Ceramic is used in superconductors and things. So, obviously it's intelligent design. But I have so many questions.
Are we supposed to be smart enough to figure out what the heck this hole actually is? Are the clues all there that we're supposed to be like, oh, actually...
Are we the dumb ones?
Actually, it's just like a power plant.
Well, with the gallium was supposed to be super cooled to keep the conductors functioning the way they were supposed to. But all indications were that it stopped that and the gallium was now liquid. So the device was not functioning the way that it was supposed to, which is probably why there were so many thuds and the frequency and yada yada, and could be why they're now finding it when they may or may not have before. All indication is that it is a device intelligently designed, but for what?
Yeah.
And by who? And what are the turtles?
Yeah.
So there's enough clues that kind of go like, okay, you can get up to that point, but I don't think there's enough there that we can actually figure out what it actually is, because he's too busy warning about his dead wife.
Yes.
Like, I have no problem with characters going through a journey and working through grief and yada, but oh my god.
I know.
You are on a foreign planet.
Yeah.
You are heading towards possibly one of the most significant scientific discoveries of your lifetime, if not several millennia.
Yep.
Quit whining and take some soil samples. The only thing he did where I'm like, good on you, was walking up to the turtle, and he wouldn't even touch the turtle.
I wouldn't either.
I would.
You don't know what that thing's made out of.
They haven't done anything. Don't splish splash in the gallium and they'll just follow you around, in which case I'm like, cool. If I pet it, do I get a turtle army?
I don't think so.
Well, in my version of this book, we do.
Okay.
Because my version's better.
Well, you write that version. I would like to read it. Probably be more interesting than this one.
Yes, because in mine there's a turtle army and we jump in the hole. But like, it had so much potential. Like, there was the possibility of intelligent design. There's the possibility of sentient life. There's possibility of, are the turtles just like an android thing?
Mm-hmm.
And you find out nothing other than the fact that he's finally done grieving his wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what's the point? He could have done that on the spaceship, and we could have sent an actual, proper biochemist, whatever the heck he was.
He's an xenobiologist.
Xenobiologist, okay. We could have gotten an actual xenobiologist to do a job.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck?
I know. He should have at least gone down the hole.
Yeah.
Have you ever read the book City of Ember?
I think so.
It's a book about an underground city.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of dark there all the time and whatever.
I remember it being somewhat steampunky.
I don't really know what that word means, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Anyway.
We need to read a steampunk book, apparently.
Well, I've read City of Ember, but that's what I am envisioning is at the bottom of the hole.
Really?
Yep. A whole other city.
Presumably of deaf people. Because that thud, that repetitive thud, like...
Maybe they have some sort of protection from it.
That could be. Interesting.
Because it's a dark hole, right? And it was dark in the city of
Yeah, but then what
Ember.
are the turtles?
I don't know. They're guards.
They're doing a terrible job.
I don't know.
They literally let somebody, like, get right up to the front door. And if it hadn't been for him just going, nah, and walking away...
I don't know.
He could have gone right in, and the turtles were doing a terrible job. If my guards are like, no, we'll just wait here. He can go in. He can have some tea. Like, just terrible guards.
I don't know. Although in that book it was, like, quite a process to escape the city, so...
Yeah.
Maybe it's a process. Maybe, like, you can't see the bottom of the hole. Maybe the hole goes...
Like
it's not
tunnel?
It's not straight down, maybe. Maybe there are tunnels and offshoots and a whole underground system. Yeah, I can tell by your face you think I'm nuts, but I don't care.
It's an interesting concept in theory. I wouldn't be surprised if there has to be something at the bottom of the hole. I don't know if I'd go full civilization. My thoughts are more scientific outpost.
Well, you can tell I'm not the sci-fi girl.
Just, they have to get their resources from somewhere. But, like, that's the thing, too. Like, he kept taking soil samples, and there was, like, microbes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Can we go somewhere with that?
Yep. Nothing.
Like, just, so annoying.
So was the book just supposed to be about the journey?
I think it was just to make people mad. Like,
I don't know. I
need to read the other book to see if it justifies any of this book.
Yeah.
Explains any of this book.
Yeah. I don't even know what the next one is about, but, yeah.
I just need to, because this will literally bug me for years if I don't.
Yep. The other thing, this is a really small thing, but it bugged me a little bit. So when he was trying to sleep, and he kept taking melatonin.
Yeah.
And I was like, we are way into the future. Is there not something better
still taking melatonin.
than melatonin? Like, why melatonin?
Considering he's like, oh yes, I've gone through one set of kidneys already.
Yeah.
I'm like...
I know. I'm like, don't we have something better than that for sleeping?
Yeah.
Like, you can come up with all these other things. Why can't you come up with
we already have better sedatives than that.
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah.
And he was taking everything else.
Yeah. He was taking all kinds of stuff.
Like...
But... I don't know why that stuck out to me, but I was like...
It was one of those things, though, where I'm like, he's using, like, AccuStick for Band-Aids or whatever.
Yeah.
But then, like, everything else was, like, sci-fi medicine. Except for melatonin,
yeah.
We still got that.
Let's take our melatonin. Even, like, the pain meds and all of that was...
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you can make up that stuff, you can make up a sleep aid.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, that just seemed very out of place.
Yeah, kind of.
There, so that's kind of why... stuck with me. There was one part though, he was hot and then he went fans up and then he got some fans and I was like, I need that function.
Be very handy.
It would be very handy, especially in the car. Mike likes a nice warm car and I do not.
No, like, it's good world building. The characters were developed well enough to make me not like them.
Yeah.
And from a scientific point of view, there's enough stuff there to make it legitimately interesting and not so like, aha, the blue aliens have contacted us. Beep boop wah. And like, you know, cheesy E.T. crap.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if you doubled the length of the book and made something happen after he got to the hole...
Or maybe the journey doesn't need to take so freaking long.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it has to take that long, but maybe we don't have to talk about every...
thud.
And every little...
Or every time Pushkin is annoying.
Gust of wind or whatever.
Like, I'm actually a little bit surprised that Pushkin lasted as long as he did.
I know.
Because that guy... they had the bolt gun from the beginning. And...
I know. I did write down. He definitely had it coming.
Yeah, he was one where I'm like... Although, speaking of that, Pushkin died. He was surrounded by turtles. And the turtles left and Pushkin wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happened?
Did they eat him? Did they bury him?
I don't think they buried him.
Did they magic him away?
I think they harvested him for parts.
Interesting.
Because my thought process with these guys is they're mechanical. They may have a sentient mind controlling them somehow, but the actual machines themselves are mechanical. Pushkin was covered in mechanical bits. So if they harvested him, right down to organic matter and split it into its component parts and its component resources. It would explain why they're roaming the plains, looking for, like, they're basically scrap collectors, because there's a fair amount of stuff that will hit a planet's surface.
Yeah.
And part of the reason why we get hit with less space junk is because of our atmosphere. It burns up. By all indications, this had less atmosphere. So,
yeah,
more stuff would hit the planet. So are they just scouring for raw materials?
Interesting theory.
It would make sense why they're so armored, why they're so big.
Yep.
Why they follow around but don't really seem to have any defensive capabilities, short of just ramming people. But why they're also set to protect resources like the gallium and the actual mechanics of the hull.
Maybe they all have humans inside of them, driving them around.
I don't think so. My inclination would be more along the lines of they're operated like drones, if there are intelligent operation happening, or it's little octopus dudes, because it's always little octopus dudes.
Yeah. It's the turtle overlord.
Yeah.
Who is controlling them all with remote controls.
Yeah, let's go with that. But that would be my thought process.
I don't know. Like, there are so many unanswered questions, which, like, I could handle, like, a little bit of, like...
I'm fine with not every single solitary question being answered.
Yeah.
The Hutterites I'm still confused by.
I know. Like, what the heck do the Hutterites have to do with anything? Why did they keep coming up?
He mentions them, but there's nothing there. Like,
yeah.
It'd be different if Talia was part of that religion, but she's not.
No. And if you look at the back, so there's the appendices, and so there's, like, the terminology, right? So it did mention the Hutterites in there.
There's the Hutterites and the Reform Hutterites.
Yeah, but, like, it didn't tell you anything about how they were related.
Well, like, I understand the Hutterite expansion being kind of the first steps into the universe. And the first steps is colonization. That, to me, makes sense. But why, like, he mentions so much stuff that doesn't become anything. Which is why I feel like I have to read the other one. This is 1.5 or is it 0.5?
0.5.
0.5, okay. The first one, then. Because there's enough stuff there where I'm like, you've got the basic building blocks of a good world building, universe, series, whatever. But in this book, it's just frustrating because there's some books in, like, the first books of a series or 0.5 of a series, whatever, where there's so much world building going on that the initial plot is kind of second to the book. But those usually end with there being enough to interest you in reading the second one. Yeah. Like, actually wanting to, not just being so frustrated and so mad at this one that I'm going to do it out of, vengeance.
Right.
But with this one, like, there's just throwaway things here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah. But I also don't know if book one will be that helpful, because this one does say technically it's a standalone.
Yeah.
So, like,
there's not enough for it to be the building foundation of, like, generally a 0.5 is not a standalone unless it is about a side character that is kind of one of those, just like, hey, it's an interesting character, interesting enough to be worth a book. Like, for example, Stormlight Archives. One of the novellas is about Lift. Hilarious. I 10 out of 10 recommend the entire series. But she is a character that is important enough and weird enough that you do want to know more of her story. Because it does add to the original series. And it does actually make sense because there's not time for it in the original series. There's not, like, to just start throwing what's in the novella into the original series would take away from it. But it's so interesting that you don't want to leave that story just sitting there. That makes sense. He is not interesting.
No.
The whole is interesting, but honestly, I'm more interested in the turtles. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. I have to read the first one now because it's just making me mad.
It's not going to give you any answers.
I know, but I still have to do it.
And it's also 880 pages.
That doesn't scare me. I read Brandon Sanderson.
All right, second shot, people. This doesn't sound like... The main character's name is Kira. There's no Kira in this book.
But, like, that's the thing. It could take place on the same planet. It's, like, timeline-wise, I need to know where it fits. I need to know what's going on with the turtles.
Would you like me to read you the summary from Goodreads?
Yes, please do.
Kira Navarez dreamed of life on new worlds. Now she's awakened a nightmare. During a routine survey mission on an uncolonized planet, Kira finds an alien relic. At first she's delighted, but elation turns to terror when the ancient dust around her begins to move. Move is italicized, so hence the emphasis, not mine. As war erupts among the stars, Kira is launched into a galaxy-spanning odyssey of discovery and transformation. First contact isn't at all what she imagined, and events push her to the very limits of what it means to be human. While Kira faces her own horrors, Earth and its colonies stand upon the brink of annihilation. Now Kira might be humanity's greatest and final hope.
Okay.
So I don't think that...
It might. Uncolonized relics. They've been leaving scrap metal all over this dang planet. First contact's not what she expected. Now my brain is just thinking it's Alec riding a turtle. Like... going like full Dune with the sandworms, but with turtles.
I don't know, dude, but I don't think Alex is cool enough to ride turtles.
No, he'd probably just stand there crying. I lost a turtle once. I'm so sad. I have to go on a journey and not step into a hole. I'm sorry.
Harsh. We're harsh. Man, guys, when we don't like a book, we really don't like it.
Like, on the one hand, I'm like, don't get me wrong. I understand. He's grieving.
Yeah.
Yes, fine. I'm not belittling anybody's process in terms of grief.
Yeah.
But this didn't need to be a book.
No. But also, like, he has these files where he can go back and watch all of his interactions with his wife, right?
He can watch his wife's life from start to finish.
And I don't know that that's really beneficial to a grieving person. As, like...
I mean, the last one where she died... And she said, it was so beautiful. And he, like, never considered the fact that her final moment could be anything but, like, fear and
horrible.
pain.
Yeah.
Sure. But I'd argue being able to go back and review the footage would be more helpful during the life than after.
Yeah.
Because his arguments, when they were talking about having kids, his arguments from her point of view made him look really bad. And he was kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
That didn't come across the way I thought it did.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, that, I think that'd be more beneficial if you go into, like, marriage counseling and go, so let's review the tapes, shall we?
Right. But
like,
to a grieving person, I don't, like, as much as you might think that that's a good idea to be able to have them with you always, I don't think it really is.
I feel like that just means you're never going to move on.
You can't.
You're just going to wallow.
You're never going to be able to.
Like,
who wouldn't want to just sit and watch their loved one? You know, like, I don't know if, like, especially in a case where, like, if it's, like, somebody who was taken away from you suddenly, right? Yeah. Just that, like, being able to still see them and hear them speak and, like to...
See, I'm a horrible person. I'm not saying I wouldn't watch loved ones, whatever. But I'd straight up just watch other people. Like, let's see what Tom Cruise does in a day. It would make for very interesting reality television.
Yep, that would. But, like, I could see the appeal to somebody who is grieving, but I don't see the benefit.
I don't think it's helpful.
No.
Like, no. I think it results in just basically prolonging your state of agony and you never moving on.
Yeah, it definitely didn't help Alex.
I think some moments would be helpful in terms of just, you know, final moments were peaceful, yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, like... Dude, you're on a planet. Like, he even said when he went up to the turtle that he went up to the turtle partially because his wife would have kicked his butt if he hadn't. Yeah. Do you know what? She'd also kick your butt if she found out that you are on a foreign planet, literally in search of sentient life, trying to figure out why the heck there's a giant hole and it's making noise. And you're watching tapes of her reading while it's raining outside? She would be kicking your butt.
Yep, 100%.
Like...
100%.
At the end of this book, Christopher Paolini says that he wrote this book because he had a dream. This is why you don't write books when you have a dream.
I think that's how Twilight came about.
Yep. And 50 Shades of Grey was basically fan fiction.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's okay to write the book and not publish it.
Yeah.
That being said, I'm probably going to read In a Sea of Stars.
To Sleep in a Sea of Stars.
To Sleep in a Sea of Stars and go, oh, it all makes sense now. But I will not be apologizing because we're reading this as a standalone book and it's advertised as a standalone book and it is not good as a standalone book.
Have you read any of his other books?
Aragon's on my to-read list, but I'm working through Brandon Sanderson and he published like 7 books out of nowhere, so I'm not caught up yet.
So that's a no.
That's a no.
Yeah.
Also a third shot.
Yeah, third shot. Oh, if only. I know, I was tempted to read Aragon because of the dragon element, and as we all know, I'm all about the dragons now. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm willing to give it my time.
Everybody says it's really good.
Yeah.
And in my experience, the books that everybody says is really good, but are like popular across the masses, is not really good. Most popular books, it might just be my just internalized contrariness, but the ones that everybody says, oh, it's so fantastic, you have to read it, I generally don't like them.
You did like Fourth Wing.
I did like Fourth Wing, but it had dragons, so.
Yeah.
But Aragon, I don't think it's going to be as good as Fourth Wing.
Yeah, I'm very hesitant, so I'm, for now, just not going to give it my time. There's too many other books that I want to read.
Yeah. And you can't read sci-fi when you're in a fantasy mood. You can't read fantasy when you're in a sci-fi mood.
No.
It doesn't work.
I don't know that I'm ever in a sci-fi mood, per se.
What?
I have now, since we started this podcast, read more sci-fi than I ever thought possible.
And you liked some of them.
Some of them. I did one of the very first books we did, Aurora Rising. I read that entire series.
See, I maintain YA sci-fi is some of the best sci-fi.
Yeah.
YA fantasy, not so much.
It depends, but
yeah, it can get very, I love you too, dragon, very quick. And very, like, cheesy high school romance very, very quickly.
Some people would argue that was the whole premise of Fourth Wing.
I'd argue it's not. But, like, very Disney cliche, put it that way. YA sci-fi, I find it's not as bad. But also, it's more approachable.
I was going to say,
adult sci-fi.
It's probably more accessible to somebody who doesn't really read sci-fi. Like,
and it's more story-based as opposed to let's nerd out on the gadgets.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, there are still things in there that, as a non-science brained person, I don't fully understand. But for the most part, I get it enough that I can still... I get the gist, and I can read it and enjoy it and whatever. So, yeah. Sci-fi is not something I would have just picked up. And then we read Aurora Rising, and I was like, well, this is actually a really good book. So, the whole series, by the third book, I was sort of like, eh.
By the third book, I was fading a little bit. I kind of feel like we could have gotten away with condensing that into 2 books, and it would have been perfect.
Agreed.
But, yeah.
But I think read 2 and 3, like, in very short succession. And maybe that was just too much.
Yeah. So. It could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
I find it depends a little bit. With sci-fi, put it this way. I find it easier to power through an entire series with fantasy than with sci-fi.
Yeah.
But also sci-fi, I do find easier to pick up after a year or 2 and go, oh, yeah, I know what a flux capacitor is. How do you not? Like, it's...
Yeah.
As opposed to, oh, the warlock, Dresdale, yes. Evil, not evil, I don't know.
I know, because fantasy often has a lot of characters with weird names and weird powers and weird whatever, and it's a lot to keep straight.
Yes. Which is why I've set myself the mammoth task of going through the entire Stormlight Archive series before Stormlight 5 comes out in December. That's about 250 hours of listening to books.
But you have a release date for the next one now, finally.
Yes, finally! Finally! Though that being said, we have The Sunlit Man currently sitting on our processing cart that I also need to read. Not part of the series, just part of the 7 random books he decided to release because he's Brandon Sanderson.
The Sanderson verse.
Yes.
Take another shot, people. Take another shot.
So, yeah. I should make you read Stormlight Archives. I think you'd like it.
I maybe would. I just... Like, I need... I just need, like, a sabbatical.
Summer's coming up.
Yeah, but I don't get a sabbatical for summer. Right? I still have to...
You get a sabbatical from reading for podcast.
Right. But what I need is an actual sabbatical where you don't have to go to work, don't have any responsibilities. I can just, like, read to my heart's content for as long as I want, for, like, maybe, like, 6 months, so that I can, like, put a nice, solid dent into my TBR, which is to be read pile.
Good luck.
Yeah, I know it's right, but, like, it's just really, a sabbatical would be a nice thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how, like, one earns a sabbatical working at the library, but can we call it a research break?
Take a research break and read every book from the library.
Yes, not every book. I don't want to read every book in the library.
No, there's some turkeys in there.
Yes, a lot. Anyway, that's my dream. Maybe when I'm retired, like...
You're just going to be reading books from 20 years ago?
Yes. We'll have to catch up on all the books I didn't have time to read.
Oh, man.
Like, I see these retired people coming in here all the time and checking out all their books and, and I just think...
That's what you want to be when you grow up?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I have a lot of books to get through.
I know. That's what I'm saying. That's why I need a sabbatical.
I mean, I'm looking forward to read going through the Stormlight Archive series start to finish. But at the same time, oh my God, is it long? And I do not have that much time in a day.
See, and that's, like you were talking before about fantasy series and how it's better to read them. Mm-hmm. So I started the A Court of Thorns and Roses series a couple of years ago. And I read all but, like, the last book that's out. And I haven't yet read that one. And I am scared to go back because I'm afraid I'm not going to. And I don't want to go back and read the other previous books because I don't have freaking time for that.
That's the thing.
But I want to finish.
But see, like, Stormlight Archives is my favorite series in the world. So I'll make the sacrifice. And thoroughly enjoy the entire thing. Honestly, 10 out of 10 recommend. Just read the series. It's so good.
How many shots is that now?
Enough that you shouldn't be driving.
Good thing I don't get to go home for a few more hours. Yeah.
Anyway, we've gotten off topic.
I was just going to say that.
Do you have any fun facts for us, Janine?
Yes. Today, for you all, I have some tremendous turtle facts.
Yay!
Since turtles were a big focus of this book, not that they were really turtles, we're going to talk about turtles. Leatherback sea turtles have existed in their current form since the age of the dinosaurs. Leatherbacks are highly migratory, some swimming more than 10,000 miles a year between nesting and foraging grounds. They are also accomplished divers, with the deepest recorded dive reaching nearly 4,000 feet, deeper than most marine mammals. They have a spiny papillae lining their mouth and esophagus. These spines help them trap and consume their main prey species, jellyfish. Sea turtles don't retract into their shells. Unlike other turtles, sea turtles cannot retract their flippers and head into their shells. Their streamlined shells and large paddle-shaped flippers make them very agile and graceful swimmers. In the water, their rear flippers are used as rudders for steering. Just like your bones, a turtle's shell is actually part of its skeleton. It's made up of over 50 bones, which include the turtle's ribcage and spine. These cold-blooded creatures have an incredibly long lifespan. The oldest ever recorded, named Tui Malila of Tonga Island, passed away at the grand old age of 188. Giant tortoises have the great misfortune of tasting delicious to humans.
It's amazing that they made it to 188.
Yes. Although Charles Darwin, whose theories of natural selection owed so much to the Galapagos species, thought them to be indifferent eating, most early accounts were ecstatic. One giant tortoise would feed several men, and both its meat and its fat were perfectly digestible. Oil made from tortoise fat was medically useful, efficacious against colds. Efficacious? I think so. Against colds, cramps, indigestion, and all manner of distempers, and tasted wonderful. Even better were their delicious liver and their rich bone marrow. The eggs, inevitably, were the best anyone had ever eaten. Even those sailors who found the tortoise visually unappetizing were soon converted. They proved invaluable for long sea voyages because they could be taken alive on board ships and survive for at least 6 months without food or water. Stacked helplessly on their backs, they could be killed and eaten as and when necessary. Better still, because they sucked up gallons of water at a time and kept it in a special bladder, a carefully butchered tortoise was also a fountain of cool, perfectly drinkable water. Oh, gross. I know I read this the other day, but I just don't remember that part. The ease with which giant tortoises could be harvested unwittingly assisted in the extinction of the dodo. Dutch visitors to Mauritius named dodos disgusting birds because they were such vile eating that even starving men could hardly stomach them, but they found they could force dodo meat down when it was dressed with tortoise oil.
So, if you ever see a giant tortoise, it's apparently delicious.
Yeah. A good source of food and medicine and water.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently. Although, ick.
There's multiple animals that have reservoirs of water where you can find fresh water within.
Like a camel?
No, that's fat.
Is it?
Yeah, camel hump is fat.
Well, that's not where they store their water.
No.
But
did you seriously believe that?
And that's why they go flat, like hump over, because they're out of water. No? You're looking at me like...
Please tell me you're joking.
Can we cut this part, Linda? Because... well, where did I learn that? I don't remember.
No, a camel's hump is a fat reservoir. And it goes flat because they will, of course, consume that fat if they need it. It's not just a giant bag of water. What did you think riding a camel was like, just in between two giant water balloons?
I never,
like a waterbed?
Never even thought of that, to be honest.
I assumed that was common knowledge.
Well, maybe it is, but where would I have learned that, do you think?
I don't know. I assumed that was something that people knew. Comment if you knew that a camel's hump is not just a giant bag of water.
No, we're cutting that part out.
No, Linda, leave it in.
Anyways, peace out.
So, that's what we thought of the book, but those are just our opinions, and we'd like to hear yours. Leave us a comment.
Thanks for joining us for Books and Banter, and thanks to our editor, Linda. We'll see you next time.